Was trading Stefon Diggs the best move the Minnesota Vikings made in this 2020 offseason? Now, let's just say very clearly the Vikings did not have a great 2020 offseason, which we knew that they were going to have because they were negative $21 million in cap space and they had to clear out a lot of players on the roster. We saw Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander left, and that probably hit the most because we don't know how our corners are going to look this next season with Mike Hughes. We still don't know anything about Mike Hughes. I mean, he's injured every season so far, and we haven't seen him enough to know if he's a reliable starter. After that, we brought in a lot of new corners. We don't know how our corners are going to look. So we don't know about that. And then obviously Xavier Rose is gone too. That kind of sucked to see how bad he did in the. That's probably the best offseason move, actually, was getting rid of Xavier Rose. That was probably the best offseason move, to be honest. We saw Linval Joseph leave, kind of sucked there too, but that's all okay. I feel like the only two moves that they made would be signing Michael Pierce and trading Stefon Diggs. So those are like the only two that, except if you're talking about the cutting Xavier Rose, which, okay, that would be the best move then because he was awful. All right, so let's look into the trading Stefon Diggs. Do you think it was a really good move? And we're going to look into what the Vikings got out of it. And they got a lot out of a player that didn't really want to be here. I mean, Stefon Diggs really wanted to play somewhere else where he would get fed the ball. Buffalo's a really good spot for him. Most teams would feed Stefon Diggs the ball. I don't think the Vikings are one of those teams that would feed the ball to Stefon Diggs. It just doesn't seem right for us. I feel like paying this much money to a player, you would have to, but he was a really good piece for the Vikings. I mean, he went out decoy, $40 million decoy. He was not bad for the Vikings, even though he wouldn't get fed the ball. Which he's a good player to get fed the ball. I mean, he can do everything. You saw him pass. I mean, he didn't do very good in the passing game, but he passed. He ran really well. I don't have his stats right here, but his running stats were really good for the Vikings as well. Obviously, I think he was like 20 yards per reception. Also, he looked really good on the stat sheet. And a lot of people would say he's like a top, he might be a top 10 wide receiver, but let's see what the Vikings got out of it. I think it was a really good deal. So obviously the Vikings got the 22nd pick. This was the biggest thing that the Vikings got out of it, was the 22nd pick. And they got Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver from LSU. Now, we've talked about Justin Jefferson a lot on this channel, on this podcast already. So if you would like to check it out, you can check out those, obviously. So they got Justin Jefferson out of it. Now, we don't know how Justin Jefferson's going to look, but he will most likely be Stefon Diggs' replacement. And even if he's not as good as Stefon Diggs, they're not asking him to be as good as Stefon Diggs. He's hard to even compete, or he's hard to compare to Stefon Diggs just because they have total different play styles. I mean, they're both really good after the catch. Stefon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers after the catch, and Justin Jefferson is an amazing wide receiver after the catch. Now, we don't know how he's going to look in the NFL because going from college to the NFL it's a big change for a lot of players, especially wide receivers. We see many wide receivers just fail in the NFL, and then wide receivers coming out of the 7th round that look great in the NFL. It's just weird how that works. But so that's what the big thing that the Vikings got out of it. That's the thing that's highlighted the most, is the 22nd pick that they got Justin Jefferson, wide receiver from LSU. Now, aside from that, the Vikings received the Bills' 5th round pick, 155th overall. And then with that 155th overall, the Vikings traded that pick to the Chicago Bears, division rival, for a 2021 4th round pick. That's a mouthful to say. So they got a 5th round pick from the Bills, turned it to a 4th round pick. So they just, in 2021, which was a great move because the Vikings, I think, had 12 draft picks in the 2020 season. I mean, in the 2020 draft, which you don't like to see that because they have to cut a lot of those players. They have to cut down to 53-man roster. And if you're bringing in all these rookies are the players that have the biggest red flags because they are rookies, and you're going to have to cut a lot of them. So you don't want 12 draft picks if you can turn those into 2021 draft picks and look to the future, which is what they did here. They took a 5th, turned it to a 2021 4th round pick. That is a great decision, especially if they didn't have anyone on their eyes. I don't remember who was available at that 5th round pick, but we've seen 5th round picks have not been great in these last recent years. Not at all. 4th round picks have been really good. 4th round picks are usually players that are sleepers in the 1, 2, 3 rounds, and then you can get them in the 4th round. 5th round picks have not been that great as of recent times. They're usually players in college who somehow fall there and then they end up doing bad in the NFL. So fifth round picks are usually not that great. And then also the Vikings got the Bills' sixth round pick for this 2020 draft. And then they also used that sixth round pick and turned it into 2021 fifth round pick with the Baltimore Ravens. They also traded like seventh round picks, moved up in the seventh round, but whatever. So they took the fifth round pick, turned it to a fourth round pick with the Chicago Bears, took the Bills' sixth round pick, turned it to the Baltimore Ravens' fifth round pick in 2021. So you can see what's going on here. The Vikings are taking these Bills picks and just turning them into 2021 picks to move for the future, which was great because the Vikings did not need as many picks as they got from the Buffalo Bills, and they turned them into 2021 picks, which was great moves for the Minnesota Vikings. And this would be a sixth round pick going to a fifth round pick in 2021 with the Baltimore Ravens. And then on top of that, the Vikings got the Bills' fourth round pick in 2021. So I just said a lot, so you probably lost focus there. But so overall, the Vikings took a fifth round pick in Stefon Diggs, turned him into a superstar, traded Stefon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills for Justin Jefferson, okay? And then they took Bills' fourth rounder, Bears' fourth rounder, and Ravens' fifth rounder all in 2021. That is a really good move. The Vikings are looking to get more players in 2021. They're looking at that draft class knowing that there's going to be players available. Or even if not that, at least they're not taking players in this 2021 draft because we don't need 12 players coming in. We're going to have to get rid of some of them. We're going to have to get rid of a lot of them, and they're going to be going to other teams probably anyways who are going to pick them up because we have to cut down to 53 people. So that was really good for the Vikings. I think that was a great move for the Minnesota Vikings. What could compete? What's a better move for the Vikings? If you disagree and you think that's a bad move, let me know. I think the only three moves the Vikings really made, I mean, they did franchise tag Anthony Harris. I mean, that's kind of okay. I mean, Anthony Harris is a great player, but he's a free safety and getting paid that much. And yeah, you have to pay two safeties that much. And they were probably planning on trading him anyways. So the only moves the Vikings really made would be, unless if you're counting cutting players, which I don't count those in-house decisions as much. So then it would be this Stefon Diggs trade, the biggest move of the Vikings offseason, even if it was even if it was you like the move or you hate the move, it was still the biggest move of this Vikings offseason. Bringing in Michael Pierce was a really good move for the Vikings. We need Michael Pierce. We need someone who can stop that run, which is who he is. And then also giving Kirk Cousins a new contract was a big move for the Vikings. I think that was a great move for the Vikings. Even though he's getting paid more, it frees up a lot of cap space because the money is not guaranteed in this scenario. And they're saying Kirk Cousins is the quarterback of their future and to go forward for these next few seasons, which I think those all three were pretty good moves. I mean, the Kirk Cousins contract, I don't know how to feel about that. The Stefon Diggs, that was a really good move. Even if Justin Jefferson doesn't work out, I mean, if they can draft three players that are going to be starters for the Vikings, that is a really good move for this 2021 draft class. I don't know how this 2021 draft class is going to look. I'm going to have to look more into it. But to grab 3 picks in this next year, they're going to be looking for the future. And they obviously did not need to bring in 12 rookies. I don't know how. I think they still brought in like 11 because they drafted so many people in the 7th round, 6th and 7th round, because that's what Rick Spielman does. He trades down all the time in the draft. And it's going to be exciting to see who they take. I like to see it. This is really good.